my fellow creepers and these that go bumping and welcome back to another episode of Creature of the Night. I am your host Toxin, your friendly neighborhood center. You should know what to do. Slash that subscribe button, ding that little bell to let you know every time I upload so you can keep up to date with me, guys. Now, a little behind on this one, but let's just dive right into the original, the 1979 Salem's Lot.
Stephen King, the best-selling author of Carrie and The Shining, takes you on a startling journey to Salem's Lot.
If you're not familiar with Salem's Lot, it is a novel based off of Stephen King. What essentially is, a writer moves back to his hometown after being gone for many, many years to seek inspiration for a new book that he is writing, and he's not the only thing that comes back to town. A evil that has plagued the town, because there's stories about kids missing when he was young, and it seems to be continuing. Something else is coming back to the evil. I think it's called Minstrin, or I forget the exact name of the house that it is, but it has like a long history of having violence behind it. I believe it said that the creator of the house, he actually ended up murdering his wife and a servant, and then Huey, I forget the other person's name who came into his possession. He was involved in killing his wife, and supposedly there were some ties that some kids, young boys, went missing as well as when he owned the house, but it was never proven. So certain things start happening around the town. People start disappearing again. The young boys start disappearing as well. Everybody always looks at the outsider, even though he is originally from that town. Coming back after all these years, nobody knew who he was. Looking at the outsider, like, how, this is started happening when you started coming back to town, but it turns out the town is plagued by a vampire.
What?
Now, going into this, I know they did a 2024 a readaptation of this, and hence why I'm reviewing it now, because I just seen it. But one thing back in the day, how it was, I still feel like it was centered on how movies came to being. It kind of that theater lighting. It looked just very flat. It looked very dull. I know that's what they had at the time, and some of the special effects and all that they did do for that time was pretty amazing. But I don't know, it just, first off, I forgot that this movie was 3 hours long. They were doing goddamn Endgame before Endgame was a thing. And with that, it is a very slow burn, guys. I haven't read the book, so I don't know how accurate it is to the book, but this, I did enjoy it. It's just, like I said, it was a very slow burn. There was a lot of build up. One thing I will say that it did very well, even though it was not necessary, it did give kind of backstory on everybody that we saw turn into a vampire in the town. How we saw the sheriff who never took a day off eventually take a day off, but he left and skipped town. How these good boys who just never did anything bad, they always follow the rules, take a shortcut through the woods, just their whole build up. Like, everybody's in everybody's business in this town, so everybody knows everything about everybody. Even with the outsider eventually dating a local girl, they already knew that they were at the lake at the time when everything was happening. Like, everybody's up in everybody's business. There is no secrets in this place. Hence why can a vampire just stroll along through the town without being noticed, whatever.
Okay.
But with the antique shop that that's their cover. They opened up an antique shop, him and his human servant, his his daywalker, his watchdog or whatever, that they opened up an antique shop. So everybody was kind of welcoming. Oh my God, this is like the equivalent if we get a new mall or we get a new amusement park nowadays. It was something new because there's nothing to do in this town. So they're like, damn, an antique. I was like, hearing that nowadays, I'm pretty sure like, whoa, dude, why isn't a random antique shop all of a sudden like opening up? That would have already raised red flags for a lot of us. But that's how they're doing their cover, and then eventually they discover, okay, they always go through the whole thing like, dude, it's vampires. Nobody believes them until they actually see it for themselves, and then people start rapidly dying. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then with it being such a big town, you didn't really see a lot of the vampires that were turned. So I thought that was really weird. Like, we always saw like around 4 or 5 vampires that Mr. Barlow had turned. So I was like, I don't know. I was like, it's the whole town. The whole town went silent. So I was like, shouldn't there be more? But that's just like, I don't know, a technical issue with it. One thing too, I like how, because of the time that the Mr. Barlow looked more like Nosferatu, even with the front fangs being all that it was. Like I thought it was cool. Like okay, it's kind of like a homage to that. Like that's their interpretation of vampires at the time. So I don't know. It looked really cartoonish. It did look something like okay, like this is something that we would say okay, this is what a vampire looks like versus the new one, which I will get into more on a separate video. It looked more like a vampire. It looked more vicious and stuff like that. And that's what I would say about this too. It's really, again, for it being the time, there wasn't a lot of blood, there wasn't a lot of gore. So I know a lot of horror fans, a lot of Stephen King's fans loved it because it wasn't that gore porn that we get nowadays. But there, you can be borderline gore porn and still be good to where it's a little bit more believable. The killings, like even the kids floating outside, that's still scary to me seeing it. I haven't seen it in so many years, I had to refresh. But seeing the kids floating out the window, I know that was pretty scary, especially their eyes. The lights in their eyes was insane. I love how they transitioned that to the new one too. That's one of the things, especially when they would start dying, like the lights in their eyes would disappear, like the evil lights behind it. But like I said, guys, it was just too long. I felt like they could have shortened it. One thing that the new one did do was it kept it. I think it's like an hour and 50 minutes, an hour 45 minutes, I believe. So they told almost the exact same story, but without everything else that was like unnecessary in my opinion. Just because of a lot of backstory, we didn't need it because it didn't really contribute to the story. We didn't need to know that the secretary of the leasing agent, what they were missing around, because in the end they just end up leaving the town. Like you don't ever see them again. Like that was it. Like okay, why did I need to know their backstory? I didn't really need to know the love interest of Ben Myers when he comes back to town. He falls in love with this elementary school teacher. I didn't need to know that she had somebody else that was still in love with her and didn't want to let her go. I didn't really care for that. It didn't really add nothing to it. So I don't know. There was a lot of things I feel like the original could have cut out and made it a lot shorter movie. But who knows the reason. They told the full story. Again, it was a good and bad thing. At least we know everything about the town that was being affected, because maybe we can sympathize with them. Maybe we can have some kind of feelings towards each person when they are turned. But to each his own, guys. Yeah, so make sure I did not do a spoiler-free review for this one just because it's been around for so long, and I'm kind of debating if I should do one for the 2024 version. I know it's not been around for years like the original, but it's been out for a few months now, so I feel like, okay, maybe I should or shouldn't. I don't know. But keep an eye for that. It is in the description below, the link to my TikTok, where I do all my spoiler-free reviews, so keep an eye for that. But, guys, yeah, for me, I'm going to, just because it's a Stephen King, it's a classic, I can sit there and genuinely enjoy watching the 3-hour-long movie. I'm going to give it 1 thumbs up, maybe give it a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 at the most, just because, I don't know, just looking at it, just the way that it was flat and shot like that, I get it for the times it was amazing. But now, I don't know, it just didn't really do it too much for me. But I'm a Stephen King fan, so I'm just going to give it a pass. But yeah, guys, like I always say, if you're not sinning, you're not having fun. Beware the moon, guys.